Welcome back to the Westside Discussion Podcast. My name is Jay. This is episode 2. Today I'm joined by Seth Gennetten. Seth is finishing up his first year on Team Westside as a local pro. He lives in South Dakota with his wife and 2 children, currently serving in the South Dakota National Guard for 7 years, as well as a screen press operator. This weekend he'll be playing and TDing in a tournament. Seth, thanks for coming on. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Jay? Not too bad. Busy, wrapping last minute things up and making sure we got everything good for all the players coming up to the Richmond Rumble.
Nice. So you're TDing this tournament. Is this the first time you've been TD, or how many times you've been TD?
No, so I've been head TD of our area since last year. We hosted the 2020 South Dakota States. If any of you guys want to check it out, it is on parsave.com. They came over and recorded us, and it was an awesome turnout. The gentleman that was the head TD in that tournament, he had stepped down after that, and I took over. So this year this will be my 3rd tournament solo TD in this area. On my deployment, I actually TD'd 2 events of Vets for Veterans. I was the only international Vets for Veterans tournament ran, and then I also TD'd a tournament in the Czech Republic. They needed a tournament director and they wanted to sanction it, and I said I would do it. So I stepped up and I ran a tournament out in another country. So it was pretty fun. Other than that, I've been doing assistant TD now, I think, with him. We've been doing it 4 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
So, a little bit of TD experience, a little bit. You learn every time, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're TDing and playing, do you find that throws off your game too much? Do you have to adjust to anything?
Not really. Our tournaments out here never get super huge like they do in some of the other states. We're pretty rural still. So it's about where I'm located. The next biggest course is about 3 hours. So it takes, it's the hardcore dedicated that come out to our event, and they know all the rules. They know what's going on. And usually they've been coming to our event for many years. So no, as long as there's no super huge issues, but otherwise I always have my phone on me. If someone needs to get in contact with me with something, we always make sure, go through the steps and procedures, go through your provisionals, talk to your card mates, figure it out. If then all else fails, you can always give me a call. But yeah, I haven't had any issues yet. It really doesn't bother my gameplay, especially it's the local course, so it's just like throwing another round with the guys.
Is there anything as a TD that maybe you wish more players knew or understood about tournaments?
The biggest thing I could say with tournaments is make sure you pre-reg. It makes everything 1,000% easier. It makes payouts easier, and win payouts and distributing the payouts. When we can do that a couple days in advance, it also allows players to get on the road who need to travel a little bit faster because it's already totaled out and everything and separated. The biggest thing you have to do is if there's ties, they play out and you split it. But pre-registration helps a ton. For instance, today I had a local guy text me and say, "Hey, I can play. I want everything. I want a hoodie, the 8th spot." I actually just finished printing the hoodies, and we'd already had them ordered. So now he has to wait a couple extra days for me to order one in to print for him, because it was an extra thing that I'm doing for sale for the club. So, it's stuff like that where you pre-reg, and I got all the numbers and I got everything set to go, and it helps everyone out immensely.
Got it. All right. That's good advice. So before we back up and kind of talk about your disc golf journey, I do want to give a thank you to our sponsor, Mando Discwear. If you haven't checked them out, you really should. They have a great lineup of apparel, hats, shades, and even Mando joggers that are made specifically for disc golf. This thing is pretty cool. It even has on it a clip for your towel. And if you don't have a towel, you can get one there. So check them out on mandodiscwear.com. Use code WSD10 at checkout to save 10%. That's WSD10. All right. So Seth, how long you been playing disc golf?
Since I first picked up a disc, I was probably back in high school. It was super recreationally. I think it was 2009. I want to say I picked up my first 2 discs. It was a Discraft Wildcat and I don't even know the putter. But I kind of just played here and there, played with your friend. You'd go out to the course and throw, and that was it. And I really didn't get serious until about 6 years ago. I started playing more and more. I slowly started trickling my bag into Trilogy. I ended up winning, or not winning, but getting last cash in a tournament, and I picked up a Westside Giant, and that Giant is actually still currently in my bag. So it's one of the longest running, and it's the only disc that's not white in my bag right now too, called Old Blue. Um, but yeah, I've been playing for about 6 years now at events. The event that really turned it for me was the formerly known as GBO, now the DDO. I got invited by a local pro out of he lives in Sioux Falls, a couple hours away. He invited me to come down and ride with them down there and sign up and go play. So shout out to Justin Sampson. He knows he's the one that started this and got me addicted. And I went down there, didn't know what I was about to do. I thought it was just a regular another tournament. It was just in Kansas. And when I showed up and all the pros were there, everyone was there. I met Nate Doss, which was one of my all-time favorites. Actually signed one of my hats for me. I mean, everyone. He was my buddy whose last name is Sampson. He was on a card, with a bunch of pros. He was on a card with Eric. I think who else was on our card? Man, I can't remember everybody who was there. I was just too starstruck
Right.
with that experience. And ever since then, after that event, I wanted to do it. I wanted to play competitively. I wanted to play as many tournaments as I could. And I ended up playing like 20 some tournaments that year and just kept it going. And I jumped up into the ranks and slowly but surely moved up to open and been hanging out, playing when I can, mainly running tournaments and running leagues, but still playing when I can get out.
So you got that Giant. You said that was your first Westside disc. What got you connected with the team?
So I loved Westside discs. I've had once I got that Giant, I just slowly kept getting more and more. And I had some DD, some Latitude stuff here and there, but every time I would see another Westside, I really like that. I really enjoyed the stamps. I love the stamps. I think that's what draws a lot of people in are the stamps that are on there. And then once you know that every one of those stamps ties into the story with the Finnish fairy tales, you really invest into it. And so I just kept reading more about the different stamps from all the Finnish tales and just kept getting more and more of the Westside plastic. I joined Team Trilogy. That was a big step, I think. They have their point system. Use that, put your points in for the tournaments you get. And I really think that helped me get recognized by some of the Trilogy members. And I would apply each year. I started applying for sponsorships. I went 5 applications, so 5 years. Finally reached out to, at the time, it was Taco. Brian Taco was the team manager. He reached back to me and when I was on my deployment in 2019, 2020, and he had another team member, Kyle Giovanni, out there, and he had reached out to Taco and told him, hey, hit this kid up. Well, talk to him for sure. I think he'd be a great fit. So actually, me and Brian had a long conversation, and then he had left. And I'm not sure if he quite passed his words on or not, but I had reached out to Chris Villa, the team captain, and told him what has happened, told him I talked to Brian, and he said, all right, well, I'm going to talk, talk with Gabe, talk with Eric, and they met and they had talked, and I'll never forget the message from Chris. He had messaged me. He said, hey, we're looking for some team members still, and I need a guy from South Dakota. Do you happen to know anybody? Little sunglass emoji, and I lost it. I didn't even know what to type back. I'm sure my little bubbles were just sitting in the text box like, oh, are you joking? And two, yeah, of course, I'm in all the way. So it was such an awesome experience to get picked. And then, when you get emails from the guys who create the website to upload your picture and everything, and then there you see your name, where your location is and everything on that Westside site. It's like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, it really makes it official. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. So you mentioned that he was, kind of joking with you, but saying that they're looking for someone in South Dakota. As a player who's not touring, what are some responsibilities, by being sponsored when you're just kind of staying local?
So I think the big thing, and I actually was gonna go through and read more on my, because it in our contracts it actually has some listed responsibilities of what they would like to see us to do, and I kind of find myself in a weird spot because the things they ask of us non-tours are do a clinic, run one or two clinics a year, about at 30 minutes to an hour long, run some sort of league or tournament. And I think that was like one every month or one every couple months, which leagues count towards that. And then make sure you have a good presence on the social media standpoint. Well, I well exceed that. I run a weekly league that we do every single week from the moment the snow's gone, as soon as we can. So it's 4, 5, 6 months of league. Plus, I run 3 tournaments at minimum, usually 4 to 5. If we can, if there was more Trilogy plastic, I'd be running another Trilogy challenge, and then the Veterans for Vets tournament. So I'm kind of in a weird spot where I do far more than what we're asked for, which everyone on the contracts, everyone in the same uh, contract division as myself. I'm sure we all do way more than we're expected to, because we love helping out the company. Um, so yeah, those are just kind of the smaller responsibilities that we're asked to do, and they're fairly easy to achieve. As long as you're dedicated to your sport and you're willing to help it grow, it's super easy to fulfill your contract.
You were talking about it was kind of cool seeing your name on the website and everything that make it real. What was the first kind of, especially since this was your first year, what was kind of the first perk or benefit that happened to you from Westside? And you're like, man, this is just awesome.
Um, you know, I think one of the first ones that I really enjoyed, especially with what I work in, was getting that order form where it's like, hey, put in your order form for your Team Westside stuff, for all your Team Westside apparel. Everyone can get a Westside shirt that says Westside, but the ones with the team logo on it, it's a whole different brand, whole different ball game. You earn that, and getting that, like, fill this out and you'll get your team gear. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that, and really took that moment in to get that ordered, and wear that team stuff proud. I love it, and I actually wear my hat so much that definitely needs to be cleaned, and or I need another one.
How often can you order those kind of things? Once a year?
Yeah, so we have an allotment. Um, you have a set allotment that allows you to order a certain amount of apparel items, and you can break it up however you want. So, a lot of players who've been on a while, I'm sure they only order like a couple shirts and replacement hats, stuff like that. Whereas I had to start fresh. This is my first year, so I'm getting the shirt, I'm getting the hoodie, I'm getting the hat, I'm getting the sweatpants, I'm getting like one of everything, just so I can be covered in a couple polos. What was nice though, that they give you the option, if you get an item that you want heat pressed, you can actually send it down to Kansas, and they will heat press. If you have polos, or in my case, I had a couple jackets that I had, some rain jackets. I sent down to Gabe. He heat pressed them for me, and I rock those whenever it's in a rainy day or when I'm at a tournament and stuff. So you can really keep ordering apparel or keep sending it down, and they'll do their best to get it back to you in a timely manner. And Otherwise, I'm not really sure if you can reorder. I'm sure you could. You would just have to purchase it just like any other apparel item.
This is your first year on the team. You mentioned the contract. Is it a rolling contract, multi-year contract, or how does that work?
So mine is just a 1 year contract with a reevaluation. So they just go through and based on what you do, if you fulfill all your obligations and you're doing well with the team and everything, they'll send out contracts, and usually they do it around the late fall, like November, December kind of time frame, because then they'd like to start getting the apparel ordered and start planning out the next year's tournaments and where everyone's going to be and where they can be to support you, with like tour stamp discs and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So yeah, the contracts will come out in November. Mine came, I think, this last year, November 22nd was the day I got my contract, and I was pretty excited to read that.
So are they always 1 year contracts, or the longer you're with the team, do they get longer and longer?
I'm not entirely sure. Off the top of my head, I'm not really positive how the contracts go, but I'm sure with some of the bigger players like Erica or Nico, they really look at some of those longer contracts, just like they do with TD with Eric and Chris Clemens. Um, I would imagine touring players, they want to keep them around and playing on the team for quite some time. So they're probably doing a multi-year contract.
So with this being your finishing up your first year, kind of looking back, what advice would you give to a player who maybe has worked hard and gotten on a team, whether it's Westside or another manufacturer? What's some advice you might give someone on their first year?
Some biggest advice that maybe I'm taking back to is, even if you're not on your first year, like say you're gonna get a contract or you're going into your second, is just make sure you're, you know, playing the game how you're playing when you got there. I see a lot of players who, when they get sponsored, they kind of crumble because you feel like you have extra added pressure being a sponsored player. And I noticed it right away when, I would just go to leagues and I was like just overthinking every shot, everything, like, oh man, I got to do really well because now I got this name on my back. So I have to do well every single time. And it's just too much pressure. Just go out, throw, make sure you're still enjoying the sport, still having a good time. And, you know, I think that's going to push you along farther and, actually perform better with that mentality and still be able to wear that logo on your back proudly.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. So you mentioned the stamps, and I'm in that same situation. After I got done playing, one of my first or second ever real rounds of disc golf, I went to Play It Again Sports to buy some discs, and I saw a queen and a sword there. Like, man, these stamps are pretty cool, and I had no idea what flight numbers were. I thought those were just kind of like some made up stats to make the stamp look even cooler. So I was definitely sold on West Side discs on the stamp alone. But tell me about your stamp. What what is that? What does your stamp say, and what does that mean?
So my stamp, to me, it's super important. If you actually, those of you who have seen the stamp, and for those of you who purchased the stamp, I appreciate it. I appreciate you supporting, you know, myself being able to play tournaments. It's crazy to even see your name on a disc like that and your own stamp. Um, so a lot of people know that I have a Lakota background. Rosebud Sioux is the tribe that I come from, and you look at the actual details of it, there's a small rose on it, and that represents my great grandmother, who I knew from a child. I didn't really know my great great grandmother very much, and that's where the lineage started with myself. So I wanted to attribute her in my first stamp, and um, you go down to the words, and when you translate it over, it means I am a Rosebud Lakota warrior. So that is something that's been in my bloodline. It's something that when I'm having a hard time, I'll never forget my mom telling me that, we come from warrior background. We were related to one of the chiefs. We were related to the half sister of one of the chiefs, so that's where our lineage comes from. We've got warrior blood in our veins, so that's been always something I go back onto when I'm having a real tough time. Is I can get through this. My family got through this. We're all warriors, and it just means a ton to me to have that as my first stamp. Moving forward, I actually might just keep this going once a year and then put the year on it. So I know a lot of people like to collect discs, and especially something that has a consistent stamp like that. So that might be something I'm looking forward to doing in the future, is do that one every year and then also do another run with something maybe a little different.
Okay, and how do you pronounce it?
So you say Mieu Tichangu Akijita Yeo. So a little bit tricky. The Lakota language I'm still trying to learn. I rely on one of my cousins heavily for that. Whenever I'm looking up something or like trying to learn how to say something, I'll always message her, and we try to type back and forth. And I'm like, I just can't do this. You have to just work it for me. It doesn't work.
That's very cool. That's very cool to have a stamp like that. So what's your off season going to look like, or do you have an off season?
Up here in South Dakota, we definitely have an off season. Our off season is fast approaching. It's actually just getting darker and darker by the day. We actually have to be done with league by about 7:30 now. So we're losing daylight by every single day. It seems like. So my off season mostly consists of just trying to stay in some decent of a shape and putting for as much as I can. I really don't do a ton of throwing until the next season starts to approach, and then I'll start doing some field work. But it's mainly keeping my putting rhythm down and making sure I stay in shape, doing just little workouts every single day just to keep your body moving, especially through these cold winter months where you kind of just want to be stagnant and just not do anything because it's freezing outside. But yeah, that's usually my biggest thing. We always try and do a putting league. Last year we didn't because of COVID, but this year we got a couple options, and so I actually might be running another putting league, the Marksman League that Dynamic Disc does.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that. I think I've ran 2 or 3 of those now. So that's always a fun time. We got a lot of guys who come out and support that. So that would be something I'm definitely interested in doing if they get that going again this year.
And then looking ahead to next year, what are some goals you're setting for yourself for your season next year?
So next year, one of the bigger goals I want to hit is get into that 970 range for my play rating. South Dakota, it's a little odd. We seem to be like, I would say 10 to 15 points lower than anybody. Like one of the guys who is on the Latitude 64 team, Justin Canoyer. I mean, the dude shreds. He shoots 1,000 rated tournaments all the time when he's out of state, but due to having just a low number of people, our player ratings seem to be a little bit lower than everybody else's. So I really want to climb up and get into that 970, where it's that pro status kind of starts, and that's kind of one of the bigger ones, and just finish well in some tournaments. Just play well-rounded golf is the other biggest thing I'm looking at doing. Is not necessarily winning, taking down a bunch of tournaments, but just making sure my game is consistent and I'm really working through the tournament without getting blow up hole or a stretch of bogeys that didn't need to be there. Those are kind of my main focuses. It's just clean golf.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck to you. And where can people follow you to watch you do that?
So a couple places. You can go on to my Instagram. Pretty simple. Throw the Heiser is my tag there. You'll see the Westside picture with myself throwing and my logo in the background. If you guys want to, you can always add me on Facebook. I usually add pretty much anybody, as long as you got some disc golf pictures and some mutual friends. I usually go through a little bit, and then I always post on the Westside Discs fan page. To either, I post on that or I have them to come over to my Instagram. Either one of those. The Westside fan page is some place for people to go when they're looking for knowledge on Westside discs or just chat with the other Westside fans of the world. So those would be a couple places where you can keep an eye out for myself as I play and do different events and different leagues and keep growing the sport.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much again for coming on. Is there any last things you want to say, add, or plug?
No, I appreciate everyone who's ordered my discs. I think I ordered 200 of them, and we're down to about 40, and most of those are dedicated to the local guys that are going to be picking them up on Friday. So everybody who purchased one of the BT Hybrid Gatekeepers from me with my stamp on it, I super appreciate it. I appreciate Westside Discs for sponsoring me and taking me on as a player. And as always, I appreciate beautiful wife, Heather, and our 2 kids to allow me to play and allow me to travel and do tournaments and run leagues and fill their lives with disc golf, because it definitely pours out of me and onto them sometimes.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Westside Discussion Podcast. I want to thank Seth again for coming on, and thank you to our sponsor, Mando Discware. The theme song is What Would You Be Like by Akira the Don. We'll continue the discussion next time.